good evening. I'll have a little cocktail and talk about wifing up young ass girls. So take your finger, slide it over, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, like the video. That helps me too. If you like it and you hit the like button, YouTube thinks that, it's a video that should be shared to other people. So that helps me. And get on my list too. We're going to have things coming up in the future and I don't want you to miss it. And so my email list, I barely send anything out, but when I do, it's good. So the link for that's in the description. So this has come up now a couple times really in the last week or two maybe, but it comes up frequently. Is guys think that they're going to like long-term relationship or wife up a young ass girl, and that's going to be the solution to all their problems. All right. They have an understanding. And this is red pill type guys and guys who, have a little bit of understanding of some of the content I'm putting out. It's like we understand that notch count and some of the behaviors that girls, young girls do today can destroy their ability to pair bond. So guys think that they're going to get around that by catching them early prior to, racking up that notch count or whatever, and like long-term relationship or what, even marry or wife them up early, prior to, they turn 25, sometimes as young as, not even 21 yet, okay, and they think that that's going to be a good solution. And I'm here to tell you that it's not. The idea that you're going to, find a hot young something girl and take her out of the marketplace, sexual marketplace early is outdated. It's not the 1940s or 50s. Okay, so and we can't go backwards to that. That is kind of a tradcon or traditional conservative fantasy that, a young girl is going to, church it up and have good morals and get wifed up early, spit out kids, and everything is going to be fine, Unfortunately, that rarely pans out very well in our society today. And I'll have solutions what you really should be doing instead, all right? But I mean, there was even somebody that was talking about, guy in his late 30s talking about getting a long-term relationship with an 18-year-old girl. I'm just like, oh, what are you doing, dude? Don't do it, okay? And there's reasons why. Now, and the reason, okay, I mean, it just, in the West today, women, before they reach what we call the epiphany phase, I'm going to link an article or something, all right? I'm going to reference Rollo Tomasi a lot in this video because a lot of this stuff he just explains really well in his books. If you haven't read the Rational Male series, you probably should read it. It's kind of foundational to a lot of things that not just I talk about, but a lot of people talk about, okay? And so it's just well done stuff, right? So, but Rollo Tomasi illustrated what's called the epiphany phase, right? And this is this idea, like usually right before or a few years before a girl turns 30 is when she realizes that her sexual market value is on a decline. Okay, she's not getting the same level of attention from men that she got when she was 21 years old, for example. And she recognizes that, as well as recognizing the impending fact that her 20s are going to be over soon and that she's getting older, And so once she realizes that, then she starts becoming introspective. Then she starts thinking about her decisions and all of her bad decisions that she's made up to that point and what she needs to do differently to secure long-term success. But prior to epiphany stage, young girls are flooded with sexual attention, and they're flooded with sexual attention on a global level, okay? So they get on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever. It is a sea of male body parts coming at her in her DMs, right? Coming at her in likes and hearts and whatever. You know what I mean? It's a sea of male attention. When she is in her early 20s A girl who is average gets celebrity level attention on the internet, which greatly, and this is what's very different than, let's say, the 1940s. Okay, so she is in a global marketplace flooded with male attention, and women are both hypergamous and solipsistic. So she can't see anything outside of her own experience in the moment. That's part of solipsism. So in that moment, when she's 21, 22, and she's getting flooded with male attention, even though you could have a logical discussion with her about how she'll get older someday, that will not register for her. For her, her reality is a endless amount of options of men that has no ceiling. There is no man, any man she gets, she thinks she can find better. Okay? Which is why if they get into a relationship, and they'll get into relationships when they're younger, but what happens? They immediately will ask the question, can I do better? And the answer will always be yes, that she can. All right, in her head. Now, she might not be. She might be, let's say she gets in a relationship, she's 20 years old, and she's with the best dude she'll ever find, ever in her whole life. That's her max, right? That's her apex alpha, all right? She doesn't know that, because all she has to do is turn on social media or walk down the street or go to a bar. She's getting hit, wherever. Go where there are men around, or boys, all right? And they will hit on her, or they will look at her, they will show her a bunch of male attention, and it just is never ending nonstop for her, okay? And so she just thinks, she has an inflated sense of her sexual market value. 5s think they're 10s. I mean, this is the plight of a 21-year-old. And I say the plight because it screws up their decision making. They get in relationships, and when they ask the question, can I do better? The answer is automatically yes. Okay? Even though it may not actually objectively be yes, that is what they will think after a point. All right? Generally speaking, and I'll get into the exception to that. So they get on, so they're automatically going to be looking outward. They're automatically going to be thinking about what they're missing out of during those moments that they're not happy in their relationship. Because any relationship you get into, right, there's going to be ups and downs, right? I mean, just like anything, like in life, And so in the moments that she's maximally attracted to the guy, she's her boyfriend, things are cool. When the guy's spending money on her, taking her to Vegas or whatever, if he's that guy, if he's the alpha dude, he's, dicking her down real good, whatever it is, she's happy then, but then they get into a fight, or he's neglecting her, or, whatever, and she's, any moment that she's not happy, she will immediately think, can I do better? Answer yes, going out for girls' night. You see what I'm saying? Sliding into my DMs, calling my guy friends to get my guy friends to hang out with me. That's automatically what will happen. They're prone to cheating. They're prone to discarding. So even if they don't cheat, they'll discard. So that is where you're at. You try to, so you can't plan your life like in an LTR scenario. You cannot plan a life with like a 21-year-old girl who doesn't know what she's doing in life, doesn't know. She wants to be a girl, and she wants to have all the experiences of being a girl, and being in a relationship with you, though may be pleasurable in the beginning and at times, and she may like the fact that you've committed yourself to her and therefore taken away that risk of you sleeping with other people and discarding her. She likes to have you maybe in that commitment, but when it comes down to whether or not she's really going to be happy, the answer is going to be no. Okay, it's going to be no. Now, okay, let's rewind. Let's be a tradcon. Press the rewind button. We're in 1945 or something, okay? All right, well, a girl is going to live in her local town or her local area. The boys that are available are limited. She's only exposed to even if she were in a bigger city, she's only exposed to who she is around in her social circles. She doesn't have the internet. It's not a global sexual marketplace. So she gets into, and she has different values and feelings about sex, right? So she gets into a relationship, let's say she's 20, 21 years old, and it's 1945, you know, and this guy seems like she's the best she can do. Well, she's not hitting a global sexual marketplace, getting inundated with tons of attention all the time, right? Where she's going to immediately think otherwise as soon as something starts to go south. So, you know, she gets in a relationship with a good, and there's also provisioning issues. Back in 1945, how well could a 20-year-old girl provide for herself, you know, versus having to meet with a guy who would be a provider. You know what I'm saying? And some women in certain areas, especially cities, could definitely provide for themselves, but some women, you know, who are 20 years old or something, they relied on their parents. You know what I mean? They rely, and they were looking for a way out of that. And so provisioning became a thing back then. So you could get married as a 20-year-old girl or an 18-year-old girl in 1945, and you're limited for the amount of guys that you're exposed to, limited by the amount of male attention you'll receive, and there's a provisioning aspect to that. Fast forward button back to 2020, where we exist now. Women can provision just as well as men can. They don't need that, so that's kind of off the table. A 21-year-old girl, it can get an OnlyFans account and make a ton of money, okay? Probably more than you, all right, as a guy listening to me right now, all right? But even if they're not going to go that route, they can get jobs just like guys can get jobs, and they're not require, you know what I mean? They don't require their family or parents or a man in order to take care of them. Although there's still a drive to want that, and provisioning is still a factor in terms of attractiveness and gravitating towards a guy. That has to do with internal drive she has, but in terms of actual, you know, objective need, though, she really doesn't need it like that, not like she did in 1945. You see what I'm saying? So provision is kind of off the table. It's not really off the table, but it's on the back burner, and what's in the forefront is having a bunch of experiences, being the party girl, going through her hoe phase, trying out a bunch of dicks, getting drunk at parties, going to music festivals, right? Trying a bunch of coke. You know, get what I'm saying? These are what's all on the table. She wants to be a girl and have all these experiences, mostly experiences that are designed to kill her, but whatever, that's what she's going to want to do now, okay? And then you try to, you know, put her in a relationship, you know, try to wife her up, nah, it's just not going to work out too well. You get what I'm saying? So she is, again, she's in a global marketplace now, so it's not the same as 1945, and it'll never be that again. Even the life expectancy in 1945 was shorter than it is now. Okay, we're life expectancy, I want to say, is 85 years old now, right? So we're not even genetically wired yet, you know, to make it that far, right? In terms of our drivers, like our sexual strategies are still designed in part for us to be dead by 30, because that's was the case up till the 1700s. Our lifespan for most people was around 30. All right, so it's only been a couple hundred years that we've been living as long as we are, and where our drives now are very existential, and we want to self-actualize, and we want a long-term happiness until we're into old age, you know, and so. But so to achieve that, I mean, that's we don't have drives yet that have caught up with our life expectancy that will allow us to achieve that. So, you know, there's wanting that, but there's these other drivers. And hypergamy, again, is going to cause her to question, you know, whether the person she's with is the best. And if all she has is social proof all over the place that she could always do better, you see, it's real hard for hypergamy to work in the favor of that relationship. You see what I'm saying? And again, she's happy. Everything's going good. She's getting the D the way she likes it, better than any guy she's had yet. You know, she's going on trips, having experiences, whatever. You know, she's with let's say she's 21 years old. She's with a guy who's 35, who's established, and he's, you know, whatever, doing all this stuff with her. And she's happy, Okay, cool, like everything's good, but what happens in 6 months? What happens in a year? What happens in 2 years? If things get a little dull, or they get into some fights, or they go through a rough patch, she's out of there. She won't have the longevity, most likely. Okay? Now, let's take a look at what happens if she does, stick around in the commitment. Like, let's say she does have something's wrong with her, probably, or whatever, right? To say there's probably something else, like an attachment problem, and whatever, and she ends up, maybe daddy issues, something, and she ends up sticking around until her epiphany phase. So she's 22, and she, gets wifed up, or gets hitched into a long-term relationship, maybe even has a kid or two with the guy by the time she's 29 years old, and she's reaching that epiphany phase, right? What happens? Well, she starts looking around, and she starts seeing her peers, her friends, everybody else, and she will go through an existential crisis during that epiphany phase, where she is going to, and this is what back to reference Rollo Tomasi, I think he calls it making up for missing out. I will look for that article and post it as well, and then I recommend you pick up his books. But yeah, that's what happens in that case. All right, maybe they had a religious background or some sort of set of values that cause them to marry or get hitched up early. Well, if they're in the West and they're not isolated from the internet, living in the jungle someplace, or living in the Mideast, or with whatever, if it's not a completely archaic culture, she's going to be exposed to what everybody else is doing, and she is not having that experience of being a girl, okay, and being free to exercise her hypergamy and do whatever she wants. And so she will question whether she wasted those years later. That will cause her to resent the guy she committed to, because that's what they do. They resent the man instead of taking personal responsibility for their decisions. So she will resent the guy she's with for having made the decision to commit to him. She will resent the life that she has, and at some point she will look to want to relive those party years, whether she is within a marriage or within a long-term relationship context, and she's now going out all the time, getting wasted, having girls' nights, maybe cheating, you get what I'm saying? Or whether she just loses it and divorces or breaks up with the guy in order to run off and then sow her wild oats, exercise her hypergamy that she didn't get that she missed out on exercising when she was peak sexual market value. She's now trying to do that at 30, 31, 32. All right, so, even later sometimes. So that's the other risk or danger, is that, and they will have that existential crisis. Now, whether they decide to go relive those party years or not, probability is real high that they do that. But whether they because remember, women want it all, guys. They want all of it, all right? They don't want, they don't want to forego any experience, even if that experience is probably not going to be good for them or good for their long-term success. They want it all. That's our egotistical, narcissistic society that we live in, and so that's what they're going to try to do. So this is the risk. You try to plan a life with some young-ass girl who's pre-epiphany. So I say in the title of the video, under 25, but that's really just, titles of videos I have to run by searches so people can find topics they're searching for. But I don't know that the age is 25, okay? It could be a little older, too. But the point is, if it's prior to her reaching that epiphany phase, and questioning all of her previous decisions, and then having some insight, or at least attempt or trying to have, some sort of self-awareness. Because, see, that's the problem. A 21-year-old girl has no motivation to have any self-awareness whatsoever. She thinks every decision she makes is great, and all of the shit she's doing to ruin her life is perfect. Most of them, okay? That's what they generally think, except for the really high IQ, smart ones, all right, which are fewer, obviously, than the average. But most girls, okay, have no incentive whatsoever to try to take that personal inventory on their behavior, to try to analyze their behavior and ask themselves, am I doing the things that are going to help me be happy? And these poor young girls, I say poor because they really do damage themselves. They go through depression and anxiety and all kinds of problems as they run around and make a bunch of bad decisions, chasing around BS that's not important, chasing loser guys to have them stick their D's in them, chasing, getting drunk and partying and, whatever, chasing a bunch of bullshit, you know what I mean, and having a bunch of fun, and then they find themselves depressed and anxious and unhappy. They don't know why. It's because they're making a series of bad decisions and they don't have any incentive to make different ones or even analyze themselves and their behavior and if they're doing the right thing. Why? Because it's nothing but male attention. That's why. And everyone telling them that they're doing the right thing because they're pretty. They're being told how smart they are, how great they are because they're pretty and they smell nice. All right? It isn't until they start to realize their impending doom, which is age and ass and titties dropping to the floor and being less hot and less capable of finding a good partner, okay? And that realization, when they realize that is going to happen eventually and they need to make better choices, that's when they start to have some introspection. That's when they start to think about their behavior. It's at that point that they are LTR material, provided, of course, that they're not a pile of red flags and bad, whatever. You get what I'm saying. But it's at that point that they could do a long-term relationship because now they start thinking about their decisions, realizing how do I need, then they start making the ones that are smart, okay, will start making the effort to self-improve and figure themselves out. You know what I mean? At that epiphany, because they know that they need to start doing different things if they're going to secure long-term happiness. That is the minimal age, okay, where a long-term relationship is a viable choice. But when they're in their party years or when they're figuring themselves out, when they're trying to just be a girl, never a good choice. Never a good choice to long-term relationship them. So how do you handle it? So let's say you're seeing a 21 girl. What do you do? All right. Well, you plate them, date them, bang them. Okay, that's fine. Have a good time. Create good experiences. Go have fun with them. All right. Have a bunch of sex. Have a bunch of fun. All right. And then drop them off, and then go about your life. That is what you do as a man. Okay. Now, if they really fall for you and really like you, they may really like you and they may want to spend more time with you and they may chase you for a commitment. Okay, cool. Let them commit themselves to you. In other words, you're not putting your commitment together. They would have to commit to you. They would have to get rid of their male orbiters. They would have to temper their social media behavior so they're not DMing every dude that wants a piece of their ass. They would have to demonstrate and prove that they are the exception of every pre-epiphany phase woman out there. They would have to put the effort and the time to prove that they're the exception, that they have chosen you as that apex alpha, the person they really want to be with, okay, and that they're willing to cash in these chips at the casino, as I call it, because that's what it is. It's cashing in chips, essentially, right? And get out of the sexual marketplace. They have to demonstrate on their own accord, without you trying to wife them up and commitment them up, they would have to demonstrate that they could do that, right? And if they're not willing to do that, of course they're not willing to do that. They're not going to be. All right, 99 out of 100. We'll say actually 999 out of 1,000, all right, are not going to be willing to do that in this day and age. And that is okay. Let them go. All right, have fun. Let them go. They come back later. They insist on it. Cool. Let them commit to you. If you want to be sexually exclusive with them, you want to do that, that's cool too. But you're living in separate places. You're doing separate things. Let her go be a girl, all right? Let her be a girl. That doesn't mean take a bunch of penises if she's in a commitment with you, and she says that she's going to do that. But let her have her things with her friends. Let her do her thing. Do not put her in your house. Have her take care of your kids if you're somebody with kids. You don't do it. I'm telling you, don't do it, All right, let her go about her life. You go about your life, and that's the nature of your LTR experience. You do not plan a life with somebody who is pre-epiphany. I am telling you that is most likely not going to work. You are taking a gamble that is odds almost completely against you, in my opinion, okay? So let's say in this scenario, she's 21, 22, you're seeing her, you're dropping her off, you're going about your life, she commits herself to you, she does a lot of things proving that she really wants to be in a relationship with you. Cool. You're in a relationship, she goes about her life. Until she, certainly don't put a ring on it. Certainly, I don't necessarily recommend marriage anyway in the West and the way that it is now, but I mean, if that's your thing for religious reasons, whatever, I'm not going to tell you not to either. But definitely, I will tell you not to prior to epiphany phase. When she reaches a point where she is, questioning her past decisions and ideas, and she has a better, we'll just say she has a better handle on what she wants long term, okay? When she reaches that point, which is going to be in her late 20s, that is a point where you could start, provided she's proven it through everything else, start planning or building a life with this person. But I promise you, all you guys who I run into, get in my inbox or whatever, who are talking about LTRing and even wifing up, God forbid, these younger girls, I promise you she will not make it that far. If she does, I will buy you a cocktail, okay? If she makes it into her late 20s and she is ready for that commitment and a long-term plan, all right, cool, buy you a cocktail, all right? But I don't think she'll make it that far. If she is left to her own devices, meaning she's in a relationship where she's supposed to be sexually exclusive, but you are living separate lives, okay, and just letting her live her life, you live yours, meaning she can do whatever she wants, chances are she's going to mess it up. She's going to end up, ghosting you, leaving you, trying to experience another dude, doing some of the wrong stuff, doing inappropriate things that you're not going to accept in a long-term relationship, and she'll be out of it, okay? That's probably what will happen. But if you do this my way, and she does make it to the end, and I have to buy you a cocktail, well, then the other end result is she's not going to, at least she won't resent you for locking her in a commitment as if she's not responsible for herself, okay? And she won't resent you for the commitment later. She's less likely to have those making up for missing out feelings because you had a take it or leave it attitude towards a relationship with her, meaning she could leave at any time. She's living a separate life. Your only requirements are your boundaries and standards, which might be sexual exclusivity and some other things, right? And that's it. So she was able to go out and do music festivals and do other things as long as she's not banging other dudes, okay? And experience life, and she's able to then make the choice of, hey, you know what? I'm glad I did what I did. I'm glad I made this right choice. And she could do that, all right? But you run a high risk if you are trying to LTR, and I mean a long-term relationship, especially any kind of combining of anything, living with each other, oh my gosh, combining finances, marriages, kids together, any of that crap, don't do it pre-epiphany. What's the rush? You're gonna live to like 80 something, okay, according to the lifespan. Probably longer than that, the way medical science goes, if we don't destroy the world within the next 5 to 10 years. You're gonna live to probably 90 or 100. Why are you rushing into a relationship, especially you young guys, why are you rushing into a relationship before you're like 30 years old? All right? Don't do it. Don't rush into those things, okay? And don't try to pin her into those things because she's pretty and she smells nice and you don't want other people to stick their dicks in her, all right? Let her make her decisions, okay? She's going to anyways. The difference is if you're trying to lock her in or try whatever, she's going to do it when you've planned a life and you've put a lot of risk out and you're going to mess yourself up. All right, you're gonna put yourself in a bad spot. So don't do that. Another one caveat or one thing to mention is when a girl is really young too, and I say young, I mean under 21, her brain is still developing yet. So that's an element here too. Now, if you watch my video on statutory rape, I'm real against being with anybody under 18 for lots of reasons. You can watch that video, okay? But that's when you're 18 to 21, I'm not going to call you a rapist, all right? But I am going to say she is not emotionally mature yet, you know? And she's not even capable of being emotionally mature because her brain is not developed enough yet. She's just not done developing. And I've talked to many 19-year-old girls who are real smart. They seem really mature, and they're a cut above. I mean, I've talked to 18, 19-year-old girls. I mean, I'm not saying I'm platonically, you know what I mean? Not in that sense, but who had their crap together more than 45-year-old women. Like, I mean, so I get it, but even with that, though, their brain is actually still growing and developing. Okay, the minimum age for their brain to stop growing is around 18, but generally it continues to grow, develop till she's 21. That is definitely not somebody who she is at 19 isn't going to be who she is at 21, 22. Okay, because her brain literally is still growing. All right, so don't think that it's a good idea to really lock that girl in this commitment. It's not, okay? She's not even going to be the same person in a few years. These young girls are trying to figure it out. They're trying to find themselves, all right? In a world where they're told all the wrong shit by society, all right? It's actually quite tragic. You're not going to rescue them with your commitment, okay? So what you're going to do is screw up your own life by trying to do that, all right? So that's it. That's the recommendation. All right. Some guys I mentioned this in a couple different contexts, and some guys really didn't understand and get it. And I think, again, it's that illusion that you're going to catch them before they rack up that high notch count. You know what I mean? And then they're going to be pure and good and nearly virgins, and then you can just wife them up and they won't be screwed up. No, that's not how it works. All right. How it does work is this, okay? How it works is you tighten your game up. You tighten your game up. You want success in a long-term relationship? Quit walking around talking about how ruined all the women are in the world. Yes, there are a lot less women that are capable of pair bonding and being in relationships. Most women cannot do relationships at all because they've trashed themselves, okay? That is a fact, but there's plenty of women who are hot and pretty and awesome who still can, okay? There's a smaller percentage of women who don't destroy themselves in their 20s and who are viable for long-term partners, all right? So vet them out for the red flags, recognize the red flags that do exist, figure out if you can work through or work around those. But more importantly, tighten your game up, okay? And when I say game, I mean game is really communication. And I don't mean communication in some, pop psychology sense, but it's being able to communicate through your words, your actions mostly, and even down to your body language and your sub-communication to her instinctual brain. So she is aroused, attracted, and desiring you. When a woman desires you and has high desire for you, she will be motivated to come into your frame, enter your frame, right? And change her behaviors, change her plans, and change even who she is to be a better person so she could be with you. So that is the answer. Tighten your game up. Obviously, increase your SMV, focus on yourself, chase excellence, be the best option that you can be for a woman, and have excellent, impeccable game. Okay? When I teach game, it's not just to get you laid, it's to get you it's to increase your ability to have productive and good and happy relationships with women in general. This includes, in the workplace, with your family, as well as with girls that you're seeing. All right? Because if you have impeccable communication and you can communicate at all levels and sub-communicate, you can get what you want from women. And of course, they're able to get what they want too and be happy with you. All right? So it's not a manipulation. Sometimes it's persuasion, but it's not about manipulation. It's just about being able to communicate, at levels that will resonate with them. All right, that is the best thing you can do, because if a girl has made a series of bad decisions, right, she is willing to abandon those bad decisions, abandon some of these drives to do other bad decisions if she's capable, right? If she didn't completely ruin it for herself, and she's willing to enter your frame, and willing to be in a productive relationship with you. So these are things that they're willing to do. They will make the sacrifices. They will make the changes and do those things. That's what you do. Hell, even if you're a young guy and you are seeing you have some 21-year-old girlfriend who is in a relationship with you, just follow my advice. Let her lead her own life. You lead your own life, and you are sexually exclusive. You know what I mean? That's what that commitment means. And then get impeccable game. If your game is impeccable, she's more than likely going to always see you as her best sexual option when she goes throughout her life as a young girl trying to figure herself out, and she maybe won't make the choice to mate switch or cheat or do those things. And then when she reaches epiphany and you're old enough, of course, as a man, and you're reaching your peak as a man, hopefully in your 30s sometime, right? Then you can look at, planning that life together, because she's proven her capability, to be able to do that with you. All right? So these are the answers, all right? This is how you handle it. This is what you do. Okay? But the answer isn't to just wife up an 18-year-old in hopes that she sticks with you and chooses not to leave you or cheat on you or whatever. That's not realistic anymore. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. All right? Follow my advice, or you're going to screw yourself up, and then we'll be in a session and I'll be, trying to help you get over your one-itis, and we don't need to do that. I'd rather have you do a session with me to, work on, I don't know, let's do some hypnotherapy, and let's do some mindset training and mental resilience training to get your, to reach your first $1 million. Okay, I'd rather do that. I'd rather help you reach your first $1 million by improving your mindset and your capabilities there than, have to help you get over your one-itis because you didn't listen to me and you tried to, impregnate a 21-year-old. All right. Thanks again for the support.